Check. Wow. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to Spring Valley this beautiful fall evening, and to welcome those of you who are watching us via live stream. I am Heather Exby, Vice President and Campus Dean here at Spring Valley and the Glenwood campuses. It is a joy to be able to introduce you to this newest addition to our campus, the Outdoor Leadership Center and Fieldhouse. This beautiful building was designed by Anderson Mason Dale Architects and constructed by Hazelton Construction Company to enhance the student experience and elevate the economic, social, cultural, and environmental vitality of our beautiful Rocky Mountain communities. Our Outdoor Leadership Center and Fieldhouse, we call it the Fieldhouse because that is a mouthful, is 33,000 square feet. Its construction took only 13 months from groundbreaking to its opening day, which is today. It's fitting that the first event in this building features the author of this year's Common Reader. As a learning institution, we are committed to learning in all facets of our interactions with others. We believe in extending learning to our community through this shared reading program that enhances our entire college district in reading a single book, discussing it across campuses and in schools, in book clubs, incorporating this year's book concepts into CMC classes, and finally, visiting in person with the author to learn more. This Fieldhouse is an athletic and recreation center for our students, but like everything else at CMC, it's also a place for our community. Everyone is welcome here to become a member of this facility and to enjoy its many benefits. It's also an event center, available to all in our community. We anticipate great use of this Fieldhouse for personal fitness, local athletic pursuits and games, special events, climbing practices and competitions, physical education classes, commencement ceremonies, special events like this, and maybe even a few weddings. We'll see. Before I begin, I want to outline a few logistics. Could you please silence or turn your cell phones off for this evening? The last thing we want is some Amber Alert interrupting all of us, letting us know that some car is on the loose and we need to pay attention to that. So please, if you don't mind, turn off your cell phones at all possible. Dr. Eager will be able to sign a limited number of book copies after the program. Those of you who received a sticky note, you have that opportunity to meet with her and have your book signed. The woman is 92 years old and does not have the stamina of a 25-year-old. So she's limited herself to those number of books. I hope you can respect us for that. And thank you, of course, for purchasing some of the homemade goodies out in the lobby. That goes to support one of our special Student Emergency Scholarship Funds. And we hope that you can be both blessed in your tummy as well as blessed in giving to our No Barriers Fund. We're also very fortunate to have CMC's president, Dr. Carrie Hauser, with us this evening to introduce to you tonight's speaker. Dr. Hauser is dynamic and tireless as a leader of our college. She encourages us to be our very best, to serve our communities in the same spirit that defined the college's founders and its original landowners. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Hauser to the stage.
Nice job. Good evening, everyone. And thanks to Dr. Heather Exby, I'm not sure she introduced herself, who leads this great campus and our Glenwood Center. I'm Carrie Hauser. I do have the privilege of being the president of Colorado Mountain College, and I also welcome you to this fabulous space. We are so excited to have you here, and we do, as Heather said, hope this will really become a go-to for all residents up and down the valley, and certainly across Colorado and even nationally. We hope we will have visitors for decades to come. Sincere thanks also to the team here at the Spring Valley campus for enduring the construction chaos during this building and other buildings that are going up and or being renovated on campus. Some of you were with us a couple of weeks ago when we unveiled the naming rights for the J. Robert Young Alpine Ascent Center in honor of Bob Young, who's an incredible philanthropist and businessman here in Glenwood Springs. We're also completely renovating the Student Center across campus, so that will be almost brand new in a couple of months. And certainly to the entire campus for hosting us today. We've got IT staff, we've got facilities staff, we've got everybody that has come together to make this happen. This is a special one-day special permit to be in this facility tonight, and it took an absolute village to make it happen, so we certainly know that that's the case. Certainly also thanks to the Common Reader Committee. This is one of the first programs I was introduced to, literally by Jane Sukes, when I was interviewing for the job. She will remember that. She came up to me as I was interviewing for the job, and she handed me the book that year, and it was great to get to know it so quickly. So to Jane, who has been right by Edie, what I've heard tonight, Dr. Egger's side for the last couple of days, and certainly to Mindy White as well for their vision and hard work on this project. So I will ask that you would give them a round of applause. So this group of employees, students, and community members has been selecting memorable books to read and authors to share those books with us in person for 13 years. And our book is read across the entire college footprint by all the mountain communities that are served by CMC. It brings us together around a common book, and hopefully it opens up dialogue. They make us laugh, they make us think, they make us cry, and I suspect the book that you read and the author tonight probably had a little bit of all three. So each year I find myself saying to myself, wow, this is my favorite common reader book. Every year I do that. And this year is no different. Dr. Egger's book is so particularly relevant and poignant and timely given our national climate of compromised civility and tolerance. Through her tragic experience, subsequent resilience, and the choices she made along the way, Edith reminds us that love, inclusivity, and acceptance are powerful antidotes to hate, to fear, and to prejudice. If you are a student, or employee of Colorado Mountain College, you are part of a core set of values which embrace diversity and acceptance. We do not allow divisions to define us. We believe in respectful, courteous conversations to resolve our differences and find common ground. CMC is a place where everyone is welcome. Regardless of nationality, heritage, ethnicity, race, culture, or gender, identity, socioeconomic status, religion, language, physical ability, political affiliation, or ideological views, whom we love or otherwise, everyone belongs at CMC. It's no problem. Everyone belongs at CMC. Our differences and unique contributions shall strengthen us and never divide us. So to our special guest, Dr. Edith Ava Egger, thank you for being with us tonight and for tomorrow at Vail Valley. I'm going to call a little audible. Dr. Egger celebrated her 92nd birthday about a week ago. Will you join me, please? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Sorry, I asked my husband if I should call that audible, and he said, go for it. So anyway, thank you to 92 years young. Really remarkable. I would say the founder of the college, David Delaplane, also turned 92 in September, a couple of weeks ago. So I love the connections there. So if you haven't quite finished the book, The Choice, Embrace the Possible, Edith was a teenager in 1944 during World War II when Nazi soldiers broke into the home she shared with her sister Magda and their parents. Loaded into cattle cars, they had no idea where they were going. They ended up at the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland. On the dark, freezing cold one night, young Edith's mother said to her, and I quote, "Just remember, no one can take you away from what you've put in your mind." After the family arrived at Auschwitz, the Nazis killed both of her parents in the gas chambers. At the camp, Edith developed an indomitable inner strength as she experienced firsthand the terrors of Hitler's hateful, totalitarian regime. Edith's bravery kept her and her sister alive. Toward the end of the war, Edith and other prisoners had been moved to Austria. On May 4th, 1945, a young American soldier from Colorado noticed her hand moving slightly amongst a number of dead bodies. He quickly summoned medical help and brought her back from the brink of death. After the war, Edith moved to Czechoslovakia, where she met a man she would marry. In 1949, they moved to the United States. In 1969, she received her degree in psychology from the University of Texas at El Paso. And on a personal note, my parents met at UTEP, which was then Texas Western University, and they are in the audience tonight. Along with my very handsome husband. Edith went on to a doctoral internship at William Beaumont Army Medical Center in Fort Bliss, Texas. Now a prolific author and member of several professional associations, she has a clinical practice in La Jolla, California, and holds a faculty appointment at the University of California at San Diego. She has appeared on numerous television programs, including CNN and The Oprah Winfrey Show, and was the primary subject of a Holocaust documentary that appeared on Dutch national television. She is frequently invited to speaking engagements throughout the United States and internationally. We are so incredibly fortunate to have her here with us tonight in Colorado's spectacular Roaring Fork Valley. Please welcome Dr. Edith Eger.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Well, thank you. I'm here today because of this man. His name is Dr. Chris Tanasi, and I asked him to come and join me because he lives here. He knows the community very well, and I was planning of just being interviewed and interrupt me whenever I say something, because I like to go to the there and then, but I like to bring it to the here and now, because what happened to me is not important, or what happened to you. Life is beautiful, and of course, it's what we do with it. I don't think there are problems in the world. I think there are challenges. I don't think there are crises in the world. I think there are transitions. So for me to be here at the age of 92 and coming here to this high altitude, I wouldn't be here today without Dr. Chris, who is saving lives, who takes care of babies and grandmas and great-grandmas as well. I have 3 children, I have 5 grandchildren, and I have 4 great-grandsons, and that's my best revenge to Hitler. So here I am tonight. Thank you. I like to call myself a guide because I think my work has to do with revisiting the places where you've been, to relive the experience, and then you revise your life. When I speak at churches and they ask me which prayer to say, I say, I walk through the valley of the valley of, you say, the shadow of death. I don't camp there or I don't set up household there. And I live in the present and I think young. So I hope that the chronological age doesn't really matter at all. I was here today on Yom Kippur Day, which is the most important day, and I spent a lot of hours praying and praying to the God that I discovered in Auschwitz, who was able to guide me from hatred to pity, for not really thinking that I will ever stay there. And when I wrote this book, you're going to see a lot of tears in there. And the best thing that I have in my life now, that my great-grandsons have my book on their living room table. So I am so happy to be here in the most beautiful country, the beautiful trees as they're changing. And you know, change is very important, because if you don't change, you don't grow. You're dead, you're just not buried. I remember I used to take my little girl shopping, and she would try on something and say, "It's not me." And I would say, "Well, who's the you?" You know, that children need to have discipline and love, not just love and no discipline, of course. And what happens in Europe, that I had a lot of discipline, but I went to a school that I had a lot of fear, because I was afraid I'm going to say something bad and somebody's going to put me in a corner and I'm going to be shamed. That fear was there, and I don't think fear and love ever coexist. So that's why I ask you to please introduce me to your community and see. I never ask my patients, how can I help you? Because you're not Humpty Dumpty, and I'm not going to put you back together again. I say something, how can I be useful to you? Because I'm not doing it for you or to you, I'm doing it with you. And I hope tonight, on Yom Kippur Day, I was hoping that I reach you, the audience, and to be your guide, to see that every moment is precious, and that you know that God only made one of you. There'll never ever be in a million years a you. So I was praying to God that I am today here and I'm talking, and I made my room in my beautiful hotel temple, asking God for allowing me to speak to the young people. And the young people don't do what we say, they do what they see. And I hope to be a good role model to the children, that not to use the biochemical means and smoking pot, but staying in school. See, at 92, you can preach, and grandmas can say anything. I said, if you dare to touch anything or wait until someone else is going to make you happy, you're never going to be happy. So self-love is self-care. It's not narcissistic. So I'm here for you to maybe take time out, because I don't know much about football, but there is such a thing as time out. And what is time out? That you regroup, that you don't go back and do the same thing all over again and expect different results, which we know is the definition of insanity. But you're going to look at maybe the same thing from a different perspective. That I'm going to tell you that Auschwitz was a place, not for any kind of recovery, but for discovery, to discover the traits I had inside me that I bring you today, that you look within for the answers because dependency breeds a lot of depression. But cooperation was the name of the game in Auschwitz, not competition or domination, because without each other we wouldn't make it. So I like to know, Dr. Chris, how is this community are uniting as brothers and sisters, that you don't have time to hate, because when you hate, you're not going to have really love. So I'm hoping that I bring in a tremendous amount inner power to each and every one of you, because in a Jewish New Year, we are deciding what we're going to hold on to and what we are giving up and letting go. My definition of love is the ability to let go. How is that for an answer? Letting go of the part in you that is destroying you. Because every time you drink, you're going to have depression, the side effect of alcohol. So what are you going to give up? If someone tells me, I want to lose weight, but I'm pigging out on this or that and pigging out, you're never going to lose weight until you tell me, because no positive thinking does any good unless you are follow it with a positive action. So if you tell me that tomorrow morning I love my cappuccino and I'm not going to put sugar in it, then I know that you're doing something. Because teenagers, I call them gono people. I talk a lot and they say, it's a good idea and I'm going to do it. And they always gonna, but they never are. So I call them gono people and ask them stop being a gono person and do what you don't like to do first, and don't procrastinate, and get rid of perfectionism, procrastination, paranoia, and paralysis. 4 P's you get rid of. Because when you're a perfectionist, my little granddaughter Lindsay was a perfectionist, and I was invited to the class, and the teacher called my Lindsay my little red caboose. And she was about to leave that class, which was a very special class. The IQ started at 148. And she thought she doesn't qualify. And this is the first time I talked to her about Auschwitz and asked her not to leave and not to allow anybody to define who she is. No labels. Anyway, it worked. She went to a wonderful high school. She went to Bishop's in La Jolla, and when it came to time to apply for colleges, you have to write an autobiography, and guess what the title was? When a caboose became an engine. And she graduated from Princeton with honors. She got a PhD at UCLA, and she's a professor of psychology. What else? My daughter is a psychologist as well, and she's a professor now. So I'd like to really see that tonight maybe is the evening time of my life, because maybe a whole life is just one day. And one of the things that we grieve about is not what happened, but what didn't happen. Because Lindsay, when she was born, the pediatrician told me that she's very flexible. She might become a ballerina. And so I said, that's wonderful. Now I can die because my blood is in her. By the way, I'm very proud of my ancestors because they didn't have it as good as I do, but they never gave up. And so are your ancestors as well. So I came to honor my parents these days, especially as I was praying on Yom Kippur, that I am here not only surviving, but I'm guiding other people. to be survivors and never a victim of any circumstance. So I'm sure you hear many stories. Have you worked with survivors? No.
Survivors of other things.
Other things, of course. We don't compete who suffers more. But suffering is feeling. And without feeling, we just go through life. So my work is about grieving, feeling, and healing. You can't heal what you don't feel. And I'm sure you don't medicate so quickly, grief, because it's a natural reaction to a loss. Am I not doing good? Yeah. Ooh. Tell me, please. So, when Lindsay was 16 at Bishop, she asked me to buy her a dress so she can go to her dance. I am a biggest, giver of things to my children, grandchildren. So I bought her a beautiful dress. I think it was a Laura Ashley. And when I came home out of the blue, I started to cry. I didn't understand. What am I crying about? I just bought Lindsay a dress. The word understand is very academic. You go to a classroom to understand things. I realized that I didn't cry because Lindsay went to a dance. I cried because I never went to a dance. So my work is grief. All therapy, I think, is grief, not what happened, but what didn't happen. So with that, I may ask you two questions. And one is, when did your childhood end? I'd like you to think about it. Because if you were abused and touched inappropriately, that's when your childhood ended. And it affects your whole life. And then you keep your secret. And then the secret has you. I didn't tell anyone I was in Auschwitz for at least 20 years until I read a book, Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor Frankl. And I wrote an article called Viktor Frankl and Me, little old me. And I got a letter one day from Viktor Frankl from Vienna that he wants to get to know me. And we met in San Diego, and he became not only my colleague, but the most wonderful, wonderful person who showed me what it takes to be in hell and find a way not to allow the hate to get you. So, what can you tell me about this beautiful place that God sent you? People don't come to you, you know, they send to you. And the patients that you treat.
I think we have a lot of love in our community and a very supportive community. We see relatively very little violence, but we do see our mental health problems climbing year after year, and the community has put together a lot of resources to address the mental health problems. But I'm wondering if you have perspectives on why we see that. I think studies have shown pretty clearly that it's not just that we're diagnosing more, that there really is more of it. So I think we're all struggling to keep up with that.
Thank you. The opposite of depression is expression. What comes out of your body will never make you ill. What stays in there does. And I don't think you have to have a doctorate to be a good listener. I hope the students would maybe go to a front of something somewhere on a street. that people could come to you and just talk to you. I had a boy coming to me, he was 14 years old. And he told me he's the boot boy. I didn't know about boots, but I acknowledged. And then he got up and he put his elbow on my desk and told me the following. Hey, Doc, it's time for America to be white again. I'm going to kill all the Jews, number one. And then he mentioned the N-word. And then he said Mexicans, it was in Texas, Mexicans and Chincos. Now there is a difference between reacting or responding. If I would have reacted, I would have taken that 14-year-old, I would have shaken him up, I would push him in a corner, I would step on him and tell him, who do you think you're talking to? I saw my mother going to the gas chamber. But I started to talk to God because God sent him my way, and I asked God, what is that all about? And God said, find the bigot in you. And I said, God, that's impossible. I came to America penniless. I didn't speak a word of English. I ended up as a worker in a factory. You got paid by the dozen. So I worked so fast, so I would make money because my husband ended up in a TB hospital. I was the breadwinner, but I went to the bathroom and one of them said colored. And after Nazi Germany and communist Russia, I realized that prejudice really means to prejudge. So then I realized that me, the only one who perhaps can create an environment for that boy that he can have permission is a big word, to feel any feelings in my presence without the fear of being judged. And I looked at him as lovingly as I could, and all I had to say is, tell me more. If you listen long enough, they tell you. So what do you do as a doctor who doesn't have time to listen? And how can you perhaps knock on his door in his office and say, if you give me a room, I'll be a good listener. And I can take turns with my girlfriend and my boyfriend and whatnot, that this whole community will be the best role model to America. That if you want to be listened to, because the first thing teenagers tell me, no one listens to me. I hear that, number one. We preach too much. We talk too much. And listening. So very good. This is going to be a beginning for you too, a kind of a new year. There is no going back. There is only a new beginning. So if you're a woman, you may want to tell your husband, I'm ready to have a love affair and I want to have it with you. And you stop doing two things. I call it social noises. How are you? Fine. Did you have a good day? Yeah. What do you want to do tonight? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. See, wouldn't it be better if you don't ask questions, because questions can come across as interrogation, and you tell them what they want to hear. So I ask people to make a sentence, gee, it's good to see you, I missed you. I remember I asked my patients, how are you? And they would say fine, and then I knew that they were suicidal. So the next time they came, I said, gee, it's good to see you, I missed you. that I create the environment that you can create so people can come and bear your soul to you and not to keep secrets. I didn't tell anyone I was in Auschwitz close to 20 years. And I was invited at the University of Texas to speak about battered wives because I was instrumental in building transitional living centers for battered wives. See, if you don't leave right away, he'll never take you seriously. And then the professor said that I was also in Auschwitz, and they were about 200 people. And how many you know about Auschwitz? And about 4 hands went up. And that's when I decided that I'm going to speak everywhere to see to it that my parents didn't die in vain. And that's why I'm here, to let you know that I will never forget Auschwitz. I will not overcome it, but I came to terms with it. And I hope that you can do that tonight, to take stock of your life. There is a wonderful book called Tuesday with somebody. Maury. Tuesday with Maury. A student goes to his professor. So you can say a meeting with Edie, and hopefully that you can give birth to the you, that you discover the real you that is a one-of-a-kind diamond, that God doesn't make junk. I like that young people say that I'm one of a kind. And I asked that question, how do I want to be remembered? I want to be remembered as someone who did everything in that her power, very limited capacity, to see to it that your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will never experience what I did. Thank you. And I was born into a very, very talented family. My parents had 2 beautiful girls. Magda, sometimes she wants to be called Magdalena, and Magdalena played the piano. My sister Clara played the Mendelssohn violin concerto when she was 5 years old. She was the only Jewish girl accepted at the Music Conservatory in Budapest. And my precious guide and Mother Teresa today is, please stand up, Jane, please, who is taking care of me. Thank you so much. And she's part Hungarian. She's part Hungarian. She made me chicken soup too, and that's the Jewish penicillin. My parents really wanted a son, and guess what? When I showed up, that was really bad news. My father told me, slam the door. He didn't want to have any sign. But when I was 3 years old, I became very ill, and a doctor came and put a needle in one ear. I was cross-eyed. So my sister took me for a walk, and they blindfolded me because they didn't want anybody to see what an ugly sister I was. And they sang a Hungarian song that I can sing it to you now, that I'm so ugly and puny and I'm never gonna find a husband. The trouble was not that I heard my sisters, the trouble was that I believed it. And my mom very seriously looked at me and said, I'm so glad you have brains because you have no looks. And you know, I became a very erudite teenager. And I read the interpretation of dreams by Freud when I was 14, and didn't hurt me any. I came to America penniless, didn't speak a word of English, and I graduated cum laude. But I didn't go for my graduation because I didn't forgive myself that I survived. And that's the hardest thing you're gonna find. That is the hardest thing for you to forgive yourself. And I hope you can do that. That tonight is a very special night. And Yom Kippur is truly the day when we take stock of ourselves. Where do I come from? Where am I now? And where do I want to go and have a goal? People with goals are happier. But when you have goals, you also have to have a way to know what you're focusing on, because what you focus on has to be really coming closer in alignment to your goal. So I hope you become your good parent, because my parents died and I was 16, and I hope that you will honor your ancestors, because they didn't have it as good as you do now, and they didn't give up. It's easier to die than live, because when I was liberated and I was in a hospital, I realized that my parents are not coming back. Reality hit me, and I couldn't breathe. I had pneumonia, I had typhoid fever, you name it. And I wanted to die. I became very suicidal. And I remember God telling me that if you die, you're going to be a coward. But if you live, I'm going to give you something to live for. So I'm for a lot of things rather than against. I'm for love. I'm for letting go. I'm for acknowledging that it's very good to have brain power. And I hope to see the movie, The Karate Kid, tells you that brain power is the best power. And so that's why I am here tonight. And I'm hoping and praying that God is allowing me to be with you, especially with the young people who are the future. And I have faith in you that you're going to stay in school and maybe become the President of the United States. Think big. Don't think small. Okay. What happened that in March, Hungary joined Hitler, and I'd like to tell you that 15 highly educated people were celebrating in the evening that they finally found a way, a scientific way, to put 30,000 Jews in the oven in one day. And that's why it's not comparable, because never in a history of mankind such a scientific and systematic annihilation of people existed. I was on Oprah, and she sent me a lovely, lovely young woman who experienced the genocide in Rwanda. And she's not able to get over it. And I'm seeing her now. So I am so grateful that not only I survived, but I'm also a guide to guide people from victimization to empowerment, from darkness to light. And when we were put in the cattle car, my mom held me, and she said the following: we don't know where we're going. We don't know what's going to happen. Just remember, she said, nobody can take away from you what you put here in your own mind. I like to tell my quote in the schools where I go to: stay in school, because that's exactly what happened. Everything was taken away from me. But I had my mind, and I had my sister with me, Magda, who's 98 years old. And I know she was born in 1921, but she's gonna tell you 1925. So every time I meet, I say, how old am I? And So I'd like to take you for a ride. I'm going to ask you to put on your seatbelt, and I'm going to take you on that ride. When I begin to see a sign, Arbeit macht frei. So my father looked at me and said, it's not so bad, we're just going to work and then we go home. That's not happened. We were separated. We had to form a line. My mom in the middle, Magda, and I. My sister Clara was already in a camp when her Christian professor smuggled her out and hid her until the end of the war. I hope you get to read a book called The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom, whose sister died in her arm, and then she met up with the man who was responsible for her sister's death. And she became really my hero about what it means to have forgiveness, that it's not you forgiving someone for what they did to you, it's a gift that you give for yourself. Because while you're having revenge, you're going to have a lot of anger, and while you're angry at someone, you suffer, not them. So I am hoping that hate is not going to be really the opposite of love. The opposite of love is when I'm overlooked. And it was Rollo May who said that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So I rather be hated, because you hate me, you spend energy on me. So if somebody tells you, take it as a compliment, because that means you got possibilities. Yeah. Not what happens is that we do with it. Auschwitz was very, very, very hard, because we never heard of Auschwitz. And some people attacked the guards, and they were shot right in front of me. Some people touched the barbed wires, they were electrocuted right away. I saw the blue bodies. So I had to not fight or flee, as the theory is by Hans Selye, but I had to learn how to make it possible for me not to give up. And I decided, I don't know how I did that at the age of 16, that I'm so much in love, because my boyfriend and I were planning our future. So I asked everyone, tell me about my eyes and tell me about my hands, because he told me that I have beautiful eyes and beautiful hands. And so I asked everybody to look at my hands and tell me about my eyes, because I knew that I'm going to see my boyfriend. So I said to myself, if I survive today, then tomorrow I'm going to be free. So tomorrow is a good person, a good something to have in your mind. That if I survive today, then tomorrow will be different. And so every day you can do what you have previously avoided. Magda fell apart. I knew she was hungry. I saved my bread, gave it to her the next day. And in December, we stood in line to get our tattoo, and I don't have one. I don't have one because I was told that I'm going to the gas chamber and they don't want to waste ink on me. But Magda was in another pile, so I had to get the attention, and so I began to do a lot of cartwheels, and we were put on the top of a train carrying ammunition. Again, stress is okay, but distress is when you don't know what's going to happen next. And in Auschwitz, when we took a shower, we never knew whether gas is going to come out or water is going to come out. And this stress you don't want in your life. So that's why I'm hoping that I really make a big differentiation. I can deal with your stress. I can write down all the things you're afraid of, and I'm going to cure it in no time at all. It's called positive reinforcement. It's very easy. You don't need years of therapy. I don't want my patients to feel better. I want them to get better and get out. Yeah, that's what I want. I want to be fired. So Auschwitz put me on the top of a train. I became a slave laborer. We were bombed as the Americans came and the Russians came. But I remember in April 1945, when the German people are starving, we were put in a village and we were told if we dare to leave the premises, you're going to be shot right away. My sister told me that if I don't get some food, she'll die. I didn't care about anything. I left and I saw some carrots in the next garden. I didn't really respect other people's property. I stole the carrots and I met the guy with a gun. I never held a gun in my life. I began to pray not for me, for him. And I can still hear the clicking about 3 times. And then he turned the gun around and pushed me inside. You know, I have a very bad back, very bad scoliosis. But he didn't kill me. He didn't follow Hitler's rules. And the following morning he came and he wanted to know who dared to break the rules. So I crawled to him and I told him it was me. He took out a little loaf of bread when the German people were starving too, and told me, you must have been hungry to do what you did. I wish I could meet that man today. The 12 years of Hitlerites doesn't mean that all Germans were Nazis. And it's very, very, very unfortunate when people generalize. But I know that Hitler wanted Germany without Jews. And the largest Jewish population today in Europe is in Germany. So you see, you don't have to follow Hitler's orders. You go anywhere you want to go, and if you want a good Wiener Schnitzel and whatever you can, not to go to Germany because Hitler didn't want you there. Hitler is not going to rule my life. I go anywhere I want to. So I think tonight is really a way that we can recognize that we have power and that power is within us, that it's not the condition that we are on, it's how you respond to it. I was already among the dead when, if you watch me on Oprah, I told her that I saw someone who touches my hand and has a big lip. And I didn't ever met people of color before. So I saw the big lip. She really looked up. And I saw tears in the eyes and M&Ms in a hand. And I wish I could find that man today. And he was black. He was black. And I have a boyfriend now who is my dancing partner. I go swing dancing, and young people call it elevator music or supermarket music. Talking about elevators, if you are in an elevator and you watch the numbers and all of a sudden somebody is bothering your back and you want to turn around and really give it to whoever was there, and you turn around and there is a man who's blind Now you want to apologize, right? So it's not what happens, it's the way you respond. So I go swing dancing, and I love the big band. I love the boogie woogie, and I know that you call it supermarket music, and it's okay. You can have your rock and roll, and I have my music. It doesn't mean yours is better than I am. It's just that we can empower each other with our differences. And yes, I too have a dream that someday we're going to hold hand in hand, and we're going to empower each other with our differences, so I can be I and you can be you, but together we're going to be much stronger than me alone and you alone. After 2 girls, my son was born, and my husband was so delighted to carry the Rabbi Akiba Eger name that you find in Jerusalem now. He was a very famous rabbi. But my son did not develop like my girls did. He didn't sit up, he didn't walk, he didn't talk. And when he was 4 years old, in 1916, I was told that he may not ever make it to high school. And they used the word retarded. We don't use that anymore. And I asked, this is a country of immigrants, where do I go for a second opinion? And they sent me to Johns Hopkins. And a beautiful neurologist took my son by the name of Dr. Clark. And a week later, his son sat me down and he said, your son is not retarded, and he's going to be what you make of him. He needs speech therapy, occupational therapy, many other things he named, and he said, he's going to be what you make of him. So I'm shaking there. And then I asked him how much I owe you, $10. So I dropped out of school. I took my son to the cerebral palsy clinic. I did everything what the doctors told me. And my son John graduated as a top 10 student from the University of Texas. That's what I bring you today. That spirit I bring you today. Never to give up, never get a second opinion. Because when I got pregnant, the doctor scheduled an abortion and came to the house and told me I'm too weak to have a child. And I said, sir, I want to give life. And thank God, my little girl was a 10-pounder. I could have had a horse doctor to run around. So get a second opinion, and I'm sure that you would say the same thing, not to take a life. So my son John fights for the disabled. He's blind. He goes to Washington and fights also with the mayor of the city to have good way for wheelchairs and so on. He doesn't have time to really be a victim, as I do. I was victimized. It's not who I am, it's what was done to me. There is a difference. I know that time is flying. Is there?
One question that I would have that I don't think you discussed much in your book is after World War II, the Nuremberg trials happened where they tried to bring justice. How did you feel? What was your perspective about that then and now? And for example, in South Africa, they did it much differently, trying to find reconciliation. How do you feel about what the justice that came after World War II?
I was in Stuttgart, and all I could think of, if I would have been born in Stuttgart, I would have been a very enthusiastic supporter of Hitler, who told me today Germany and tomorrow the whole world. Children are very impressionable. That's why when I'm in schools, I hope that you are learning not what to think, but how to think. Invite the white supremacy. My friend is now in his church, asking the church to put one day aside to have the Holocaust mentioned, because he never, in his 94 years, ever heard the Holocaust in his church. So it's very important for me that I left here, that God gave me a second chance. And that's what happened when I had two paraplegics coming to see me from Vietnam. Same diagnosis, same prognosis, two entirely different responses. One of them was kind of like a fetal position. Why me? Why me? Conversely, the other one says to me, you know, Doc, I'm so grateful that I'm sitting in a wheelchair because I can see my children's eyes much closer. I can see the flowers much closer, and I am sitting there not knowing what's going on because I had a 16-year-old in me, and I felt like a total imposter. I asked for the name imposter. And I couldn't take these Vietnam veterans further than I have gone myself. And they were the biggest help because I decided to go back to Auschwitz. And that's the work I do today. To go back to Auschwitz, to go back to the lion's den, look at the lion in her face, and put the shame and the guilt to the perpetrator and begin to forgive myself that I survived. And that's the work I do. It's the journey of grieving, feeling, and healing. Not curing, healing. The doctors do the curing, but the healing is an inside job. I do a lot of work with cancer patients and see how they can be together working with the curing and the healing. Anybody has also any questions? If you have any question, my Mother Teresa is going to get the question. Any question?
Dr. Hager, I'm so excited to be here and hear you speak. Earlier in your talk, you had said you had two questions for us. One was when our childhood ended. What was the second?
What did she say?
What was
I'll repeat it. So you said you had two questions for us. One was, when did your childhood end? What was the second question?
Would you like to be married to you? Thank you. When I was liberated, I didn't know how to go to the bathroom. I didn't know how to write. I did not know how to write a G. I remember practicing a G, a capital G. It was amazing. Seligman talks about learned helplessness, and many battered wives are brainwashed by their husbands that without him she is nothing. The trouble is she believes him. And so I've done a lot of work with battered wives, and I use Auschwitz about how to have the emotional IQ and the school of life, because life is not easy. There is no guarantee, there is no certainty. If you ask a child, why do you do that? The child would say, because I feel like it. Children don't care about consequence. They eat the chocolate, they eat whatever it is. They don't care about consequences. As an adult, I still feel like it, but I don't act upon it unless it is really in my best interest. And that's why I ask you to be a good mommy to you. And good mommies and daddies are the best example for the children. The best thing for children is a happy marriage. Children don't do what we say, they do what they see. So it really begins with self-love, which is self-care. So I began to really just be part of society, but it was very difficult because people asked me, did you love your husband? And I say, love? He bought me Hungarian salami, and he bought me Swiss cheese, and that was fine, because I wanted to be normal, and normal means you get married, have children, to be normal. So we got married right away, but falling in love? No. To tell you the truth, falling in love is like you fall in a hole. It's a chemical high that only people get from chocolate. It's nothing to do with it. No, I'm not knocking it. It can lead to loving relationship. But romantic love is temporary. And real love is not what you feel, is what you do. That you commit yourself to your wife's welfare. When she comes home tired from school, that you have a bubble bath ready for her, and you're reading a cookbook and say, I made a pizza. And, yes, you're gonna do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, yes. Yes, because, do you want a modern marriage or you want to have a traditional marriage? That she stays home and takes care of the home and the heart, and you provide. But the modern marriage, you both go to work, you both make money, and you form a wonderful team. And I like the modern marriage because my late husband, when I gave birth, he didn't come with me meetings or anything about giving birth. It doesn't show up, the man doesn't show up. And when my little girl was born, he was telling people that I'm going to give you a cigar, even though it's only a girl. So it was patriarchy. And so now I think we have come a long way, that I like the pioneer woman in America because she worked alongside with her husband, not behind, and I like that. But in the industrial society, when women started to work, and then it created a very bad marriage because the husband wanted to control the wife with money, so he would give her allowances, but he had to be the man of the house. And so right now we have a president and a vice president, beautiful women who are Renaissance people. They can love, they can be brilliant, and we can be all of that. And I think we have a wonderful life, and hopefully ahead of us. I hope to be alive and well. I hope that I can write and finish my second book. It's going to be called The Gift, and underneath 12 lessons from hell. And I will show you how Auschwitz was an opportunity to to discover the love, the way that we have to be with each other and take care of each other, and how we had to become a family. And so I am hoping that I gave you love tonight and getting rid of the fear and guilt. Guilt is in the past. And what you say to yourself is that if I would have known better, I would have done better. My parents had tickets to come to America and they never used it. And worry is very neurotic. It's not concern. Get rid of all the worries because 78% of worry doesn't happen. And we never worry about good things happening. So think about your thinking and pay attention what you're paying attention to. Any behavior you pay attention to, you reinforce that behavior. Sometimes a woman comes to me and said, Edie, I don't know how to tell you that I was sexually abused, but I cannot tell you because you were in Auschwitz. And my answer is, maybe you were more in prison than I was in Auschwitz, because I knew the enemy. Really. There is no comparing. But when your childhood ended, remember, now you can create and you can rewrite your script and you become a good mommy to you. And you become the person that you were meant to be. So tonight I'm also a midwife to you. You're pregnant and you're going to give birth to the you, the real you, the true self that you're going to really practice. Love thy neighbor as thyself. I didn't know Jesus was a rabbi because I was called a Jesus a killer, Christ killer as a child, because I went to a Jewish school and children were spitting at us before Hitler. So I hope that we're going to realize that we already had enough hate, don't you think? We had enough hate. We have now the opportunity to form a human family so we can live as brothers and sisters. And that's my dream tonight. And that's my dream gonna be tomorrow night. And every night when I go to sleep, that I will get up and do something today that I have previously avoided. So don't call me shrink, call me stretch. And that's what Viktor Frankl talk about. I'm not a shrink, I'm a stretch. And try to stretch your comfort zone and try on something, maybe a little Hungarian food or something different, not better or worse, just different. Go maybe take a shower in the evening rather than in the morning, or go in the back door rather than the front door, and you say to yourself, that I don't have to do the same thing over and over again. So I am very delighted that tomorrow going to be very cold and I'm going to experience snow. But then it's going to come and go. So everything is temporary. Life is temporary. I hope that you give again a wonderful, loving hug when you go home, that you don't need any alcohol, and I hope that you may be able to be just the best parent to you, because there is something between birth and death called life. And I hope you're gonna live a lifestyle, not a death style, and everything that you put in your body is gonna make you healthy and happy, so that I could stay away from Dr. Chris, because He wants you to be healthy and happy, but I couldn't pay more attention and more love and more gratitude that you saved my life for being here tonight. Thank you, Dr. Chris. And I love you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, you can sit, take your bows. Thank you. Thank you all very much. A remarkable evening. Love really is the answer. Please make that choice. Dr. Edie will be signing books for those of you who have the stickers on your books. And the rest of you, have a lovely, lovely evening. We so are appreciative of you joining us here tonight. Good night.